Hello everybody, and welcome back to Writing the Rapids, the show where I, Joe Bielecki, talk to writers about writing, and very often those writers have been recommended to me by writers who have previously been on the show. In the case of this month's guest, Shelley Lavigne, was recommended to me by Charlene Elsby. Shelley Lavigne is a fine purveyor of moist literature, usually queer, erotic horror. They have 3 books out, and their short fiction has appeared in many places, including Three Lobed Burning Eye, Cosmic Horror Monthly, Gamut, and many fiction anthologies. They've also been nominated for a pushcart. Their corporeal form is located in Ontario, Canada, and is usually found wandering in search of bugs or haunted houses. Their mind is elsewhere. Before we get into my conversation with Shelley, let's remind you that for $2 a month at patreon.com/noisemakerjoe, you can get these episodes a little bit earlier than everybody else, and it makes me feel like I'm doing something worthwhile. If money is not a thing you can contribute comfortably, I totally understand. Just tell 2 or 3 people about the show, whether they have not heard about it, whether they've not listened, whether they haven't listened in a while. Bringing people into or back into the fold would help an awful lot. Like, comment, and subscribe. Leave the nail painting emoji in places where you can listen to this, where comments are available. All of those things help an awful heck of a lot. Now, without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Shelley. Okay, let's start with, I guess, the less fun stuff, and then we'll get into the fun stuff. So you have 3 books. Mm-hmm. 2 of which came out from a press, and that press is gone. Mm-hmm. And then you have Enamored, which came out most recently last year, and that's on Hedone Books, which is closing its doors by the time anybody hears this. Unless you're listening on Patreon the day it comes out, then you have till tomorrow. Hurry. Like, it's kind of a bummer that this isn't like a new position for you. But do you, I don't know, how do you feel? How do you feel? Well, do you have plans moving forward for these books?
Yeah, I will say, like, this is not my first rodeo of a press shutting down. I don't know if you remember the whole Darklit thing. Darklit was actually the initial publisher of Sick, Stories from the Goop Troop. They were set to publish The Flesh of the Sea. There was that whole debacle, and which led to The Flesh of the Sea being rehomed by Hayden, who was kind of taking over, and then who put out Enamored. I mean, I'm far from the only person who's had this happen to them. Even just in reaching out to see who can rehome books, there's been a lot of, we've been rehoming a lot of books. We'd love to also rehome your books. Like, it's very clear in that presses are used to rehoming books. They're used to hearing people reaching out and asking, hey, do you take reprints? Some places have explicit policies saying, yes, we will, others won't. It all sort of depends on their style. I think it's a small industry. There's a lot of little tiny presses. And there's only so much money in such a thing. There's a pile of love. There's a pile of passion. I think that a lot of people start these off with huge, so much passion, so much desire to champion the arts, give them a place to be sort of that niche that they see. They see the gap of, like, you know what, nobody's publishing these types of books, so we're gonna make a space for them. We're gonna make a space for the queer erotic books, and we're gonna make a space for the experimental books that might not have huge audiences, and we're gonna take these more experimental books by these bigger authors that don't quite have a space within Tribe Publishing for them. There's so many folks that come into it with so much passion and desire, and I think the reality of running a small press is that it's a business. with all of the dependencies that you have on you, a lot, if you're a business owner, you have to be, available to answer questions. You're dealing with issues, whether that is with distributors or with Amazon or with, bookstores. It's a really difficult business, and it's a business. As much as I think that I know I went into writing with a bit of a naive idea of, oh, well, I love books so much. They've shaped who I am. They inspire me. They're an incredible art form. They allow me to travel into the heads of these people. Sometimes I read books and I have chills all over my body. I'm just like, this is an incredible experience. I can't believe that I get to live this. I can't believe that I get to read through this person's thoughts and all of this. And you go into it with these noble goals, but the reality of all of the paperwork and having to figure out royalties and having to put out, reach out to bookstores and put out advertising and all this stuff, I think it can kind of come as a bit of a shock, all of the responsibilities that you then have on you, on top of your own responsibilities, especially in this world that we live in, where you need to make money. You can't just keep losing money in a press. And, you hear that it takes 5-10 years for people to become lucrative in their presses. And I would honestly be shocked if that's enough time to become lucrative in your press, to be honest. So I think it's unsurprising, but it was still really, really hard to get that news, especially because, once those books lose their homes, it then, especially if you are unagented as I am, it then becomes my responsibility to figure out, okay, what rights am I getting back? What am I doing with this? Now I'm contacting new publishers. I'm trying to pitch the book that's already had a home, and it's harder to find a home for a reprint than it is for a brand new work. You're relying a lot on the community itself. And I've got to say that the community itself, some of the publishers that I've reached out to who haven't been able to help, but have said like, hey, go talk to so-and-so. And hey, if you need me to put you in touch with somebody else, it can be hard sometimes, because sometimes you feel like you've been let down, but then you turn around and you've got another group of people ready to like lift you and hold you up. And I think it's just a question of like, I think that the only way to survive in this industry is through friends. It's through the connections that you make with other people. It's through helping other people, and then helping you when you need that help, and cheering each other on and being with each other when it sucks, when everything just sucks so hard. And then, but also when everything is going great, and celebrating those people. It feels like an immense privilege to have the community and the friendship that I have found. And so when stuff like this hits and you just feel like you want to bury yourself in a hill and just never come out, and you got like a sewer grate and you're like, I'm going into the sewer grate, gang, like that's it, like see ya. Your friends are there to like pull you back out and be like, no, like we're gonna keep going. Yeah, and it's awesome. It's really great. I mean, I learned the news that Hayden E was shutting down as I was literally walking to my belated book launch with a bunch of my friends. And I literally read the email as I was leaving my apartment to go with my big pack of friends. And I was like, I think that if I wouldn't have had this group of people, I would have fallen down and just sobbed. And instead it was like, well, okay, let's go. We're going to go party anyways. Like, too bad. And I think that that's kind of what the true takeaway is for me. It's the community, it's the friends, and sometimes you fall down, but they hold you and they point you in new directions. So they say, go check out this person, go talk to this publisher, drop my name, go say hi over there, and they'll help you. It's amazing. It's really good.
That's beautiful.
I think it is. I don't know. I have, as much as I write about a lot of sad, lonely people, I think I have a sizable amount of faith in humanity, And I think that I have seen some really shit stuff. I hope it's okay that I swear.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. I've seen some really shit stuff, but I've also seen some really beautiful things too. You know,
Hmm.
both things are true.
How else would you know what is beautiful?
Right? I think that it's like you can't appreciate life if you don't understand death. You can't appreciate beauty if you don't understand ugliness. I think that also it's kind of like, oh, it's just to loop over to cosmetics, right? Like the perfume. You have both the beautiful smells and also the rotten smells, and you need both of those things in order to truly appreciate it. If not, it's one note, it's hollow. I think that that's like a great strength to like even things like body horror too, right? Where like it makes you kind of like appreciate the fact that your body is like falling apart. It's a nasty little machine that you're trying to pilot, but also it's kind of full of wonder too.
Hmm.
Both of those things are true in equal measure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, I want to just hop right into that so I don't forget. The body horror and eroticism thing
Mm-hmm.
is like um it's amazing to me. Like that is how I like envision like connection with somebody is like through like a body horror lens. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Feel like it's fairly normal to be like, I wish I could crawl inside your skin and be in there, but like yeah, like the the best thing I can imagine sometimes is like being in a pile of people, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you don't know whose arm is whose arm and it doesn't matter. Um in fact, it occurs to me now, I'm not plugging my book. There's a large
You
section
can go for it. Go for it.
there's a
Go for it.
large
Tell me.
section in my book Tired where the character Alexis is at a club and
Mm-hmm.
she's
Mm-hmm.
dancing and it becomes an
Yeah.
organism.
Mm-hmm.
And
Ooh.
um
Ooh.
all of the bodies become cells in an organism.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that is like I guess been in my brain for a long time. Just like the um for whatever reason, like visual representations of things like blood fetishes or cannibalism or stuff like that doesn't do anything for me. But like if I'm imagining like a really passionate communal, erotic, not necessarily like sexual experience, like it is that like literally two becoming one sort of. I grew up Catholic too, so like that's a thing.
Oh, me too.
Yay.
Handshake. There you go. Hey. Oh yeah, then you're eating the body of Christ. Yeah, no, I think um you know, I often feel like maybe I'm just not going clubbing enough, you know. But man, like I do miss just sort of the genuine just touch of people, right? Like the sensation of like feeling like you're together. I think that like I just love like when you're hugging friends and you're just like skin to skin and you can just like really feel like your cheek pressed against their cheek and you can feel their heat and you can maybe feel a little bit of their sweat and their tackiness. Like it's, I think it just is a good reminder that we're alive and we're like unsanitized beings. A lot of art sort of shows this this beautiful, like it's these two people, they're kissing, but like you're not seeing the bodily fluids, you're not seeing the fact that there's a little bit of drool that's usually coming down as you're really like going for it, the fact that like your sweat pools in your body, you get like a little receptacle of sweat in your oh my god, your navel, like all of these things, it feels so much more alive than this just sort of sanitized version. And I think that like we're almost so used to this sterilization that like I think that that's why body horror is so comforting, because it reminds us that we're not sterile. It reminds us that our bodies are really pliable, that they are capable of transforming. And I really do feel you about like the whole wanting to like crawl into somebody, like even just like my cat. I love my cat so friggin' much. I will like frequently just like hold her and just like be overwhelmed with how much love I feel for her, and I just kind of want to cut myself open and put her in there so I can have her with me all the time. Like it feels offensive that our cells can't just fully enmesh into one, and it feels offensive sometimes too, like just the concept of even like two atoms never fully can never fully touch each other.
Yeah.
Right, there's always, even if you feel pressure, even if you're pushing your hands once against the other or like rubbing as close as you can, those cells aren't touching each other. And it just sometimes it feels like I can't quite ever really get close enough to somebody, you know, and you feel that passion, that like, oh my god, that all consuming crush where you're just like, I just need to like put that person inside of me. Like I can't live with this distance. I can't live with this cellular distance between us. We have to merge. I think that just really gets to that, like that core need of being a person and wanting to like truly connect with people. And it's something that even just I just don't feel like, I remember even pre-pandemic, like you'd brush against somebody in a train, or you'd like have your knee like touching somebody, and that like moment of like connection with somebody that you feel. I feel like we're getting less and less of that. And I think that I know that I personally am like a little bit more, and this is not a blanket this is not an opening to people if they see me in the street to like go and hug, like please ask first. But I miss the sort of like more, I feel like I had more touch in my life pre-pandemic, and as much as sort of like I've gone a lot back to like sort of life has kind of almost returned in some degree to that world before, there's still a little bit more distance I feel with people a little bit than I had before. And I find that strange, and I think that I'm also craving it in some ways. And so I understand that like that desire to like be in a nightclub and merge. And I think too, especially the nightclub image, I think is perfect, because there's something about everybody dancing together, or there's somebody about like, I felt the same way too at like protests, where it does all genuinely feel like you're finally connected with people. I think in a way that even doesn't if you're just sort of going out and getting your groceries and bumping into people there. There's something really different about experiencing either like an act of protest or experiencing music and art together too, that just joins people, I think, on a even deeper vibrational kind of level.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that you called body horror comforting, because I'm right there with you. I'm on record of being like, yeah, I don't know what dude was complaining about so much in society. Like that seemed fine to me.
Right?
And I should watch it again through like a socio-political lens or something, and see if the movie's like are advocating for some sort of like individualism that I don't subscribe to or something. I don't know. I will also say that since becoming a dad, cuteness aggression has become really powerful in me. And I heard somewhere that like dads roughhouse with their kids because it activates the same like oxytocin sort of thing that like breastfeeding does, that like I can't breastfeed, so like dads are like tossing their kids in the air and flipping them around and wrestling and stuff because it activates oxytocin and other endorphins that you otherwise can't activate. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm throwing my kid all over the place. I'm doing like baton tricks with her. I'm like flipping her around my shoulders and on my head and like tossing her in the air. And like grabbing her and squeezing her.
I know. Yeah.
And yeah, so like the whole touch thing, and I don't want to get too deep into Joe's been going to hardcore shows, because I really talked about that to death with Christopher Norris, but I was thinking about it while I was at like a day-long festival last weekend. And like,
oh, that must have been awesome.
It was great.
That must have been awesome.
It was great. shout out to Free Space shows in Grand Rapids. Luke and Dom, you guys fucking killed it. They're never gonna hear this.
It's fine. We'll cheer them on anyways. Maybe they'll feel it, you know.
But like, and I got like battered and bruised. I got hit in the face several times. There was one set, I'm wearing their shirt, Anadonia. It was scary. I was like, oh, I'm afraid. But through all that, like, after the first couple of shows that I went to as an adult, I started really softening on ideas that I had about like, oh, crowd killing is bad and it's just people being violent or whatever. It's like, I actually like, one, like, please don't hit me in the face as hard as you can. I do not like that. I gotta go to work tomorrow. I'm semi-public facing in my job. Like, I need to, I can't
I just can't have a big black eye, you know, and
I don't want to have to explain that to guests. I can't have like swollen lips to talk through on the radio. But there's a degree of contact and intensity that happens when someone throws themselves into you at a show, or when they're shoving people around, even when you're like getting hit or kicked or whatever. It's like, if not for this space, I would never, ever, ever touch you. And, you know, like, the scene is again fairly diverse. We talked about this before, but it's a lot of dudes. Most of the people who are making contact with other people are dudes. I think of that image of like schoolboys roughhousing with another one that says you construct elaborate rituals to touch the skin of other men.
Oh my god, like football, I'm like, you guys are really in each other's business. Oh my goodness,
you could just cuddle and you'd get a lot less CTE.
Oh my god.
So like, you know, my wife is like, why do you do that? Why don't you just stand in the back? Why do you have to mosh like that? And it's like, because I'm like, I'm making contact with other people. Like, I'm touching them. I'm feeling them. I'm feeling the intensity that they're feeling through the shared experience of this music. If I was still going to church, the closest I'd get to that is the peace be with you handshake. And that, you know, that doesn't feel quite as good. So
no. And I think too, that's why, like, you know, you've been seeing, because there's the contact. There's also, I think, the bodily release of being able to like move yourself more aggressively, like feel your feelings. I think that, you know, I even think about, you know, you're walking down a street and you see somebody who's unhoused and they're having like a really intense episode and they can't do so within the private of their own space. And they're just letting their feelings out and everybody's sort of like really scattering. And you're like, you know, that person just is feeling their feelings right now. And they're being loud about it. We've all been trained to keep that inside, to suppress that, to not just dance in public or have emotions in public, or you know, just tamp it down, follow the crowd, you know, be in suburbia, follow the rules, you know. The less you conform, the more you stick out, the more people treat you as weird. You know, like I'm used to sort of walking down the street with my crazy clothes and getting glances, and I'm like, what? Or I'll be down a street and I'll be talking with a friend, we'll be talking loudly and I'll be gesticulating and people will like groan and step around me and I'm like, man, I'm just having my feelings. Like, you probably have those same feelings too. You just, you know, you just calm them down. Or one time somebody stole my eclair at work. Long story, but it was a situation. Okay, somebody went into my lunchbox.
Oh no!
Took out my eclair, ate my eclair. It was a gluten-free eclair. Okay. And left the rest of my lunch, but ate my eclair. And I was like walking home late that night and I was like talking to my mom on the phone and I was pissed. Like I was gesticulating. I was using foul words. I was really, and people were just like really clearing a space around me. And I was like, wow, like people are kind of really afraid of the feelings of others. I think I understand why. We've seen some really negative things with some people expressing themselves, although I live in Canada. So
a lot fewer guns for people to express themselves with.
you know, and I think oftentimes it's like, you know, I'll see things happening and I will be like, I am not that stressed about this because I know that this I'm not going to get hurt. You know, I think we live in a very different reality than you all do in the States, like genuinely. Because for me, I'm just kind of like I don't feel that kind of a fear around that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with this, but I don't know. I think that the being able to like cathartically let out your feelings that way,
Hmm.
to have kind of a safe space to vent that in a more physical way, because I think that like we can vent sort of our own anxieties and stresses and tensions through our writing, through other art practices, but I think that like the bodily release of it is also really important to do so in a constructive way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, especially like as a man, like I go out of my way normally to make sure I'm not touching people
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
there's like an
Mm-hmm.
inherent threat of violence that accompanies my presence in a
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is tough. I I think that's really difficult, and I think that that's really sort of like heartbreaking in some ways, because I think that you are no less in need of touch and kindness, and but at the same time like it comes from a place of it comes from a logical place,
yeah.
you know. I think that like you can hold both of those things in your hands at the same time,
Hmm.
in being like, yeah, yes, this comes from a logical place, but also it really sucks that you have to sort of fear it to that degree. I think that that's where like Friends and uh, punk concerts and,
Hmm.
you know, football, I guess, also, you know, can can be that space to help
Yeah.
that a little bit.
There
Mm-hmm.
was a woman during one of the recent male loneliness academic or male loneliness epidemic uh
Mm-hmm.
whatever discourses. I feel like it's uh intellectually dishonest to call it a discourse, but whatever. Pile-ons,
Mm-hmm.
where she was like, "Hey guys, you just got to start cuddling with your friends."
Yeah.
And she's like, "If you like, that's
Mm-hmm.
it. That
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
you and your friends are watching football, you gotta sit next to each other and lean on
Yeah.
each other and put your head on his
Yeah.
shoulder, and like you just gotta
Mm-hmm.
hold hands, hug, cuddle with each other. Like you just gotta, because
Mm-hmm.
like if you're expecting to get a girlfriend and have her fulfill all of your
All of your needs?
all
Come on.
yeah, like it's not, one, not
That's
fair to her, and two, I don't care how
exactly.
wonderful your partner is, she's not an entire community.
Yeah, right. And you also see it too, like I've seen it happen with friends too, where they get especially usually like women, and they just dissolve themselves into their partner because their partner asks so much of them, and it's really hard to watch. But yeah, no, the importance of friendship is, it's not a joke. One person can never ever be enough, you know, but also like to expect somebody to like have the same interests as you and the same you know, like energy levels as you and all of these things. It's just not like, we're not meant to be just two people going through life with our 2.5 kids, you know, living in a picket fence situation. Like we are a social creature. Like we're social animals. We're meant to sort of have larger communities. And also it's so fun. It's so fun to have a whole bunch of friends, because you're like, okay, this is my group that I go to like get fancy food with. This is my group that I go see burlesque shows with. This is my group of people. And you like get different experiences. You hear about different parts of life. Also, then people don't have to hear you complain about your like, I don't know, I have really great neighbors. But let's say you have terrible neighbors all the time, you know, like all this stuff. Like it's good to have a whole bunch of people. It's good to nurture those. And I know that it's a lot of energy, and I know that we have no energy. And
Hmm.
so it feels like the easiest thing to do is just to rely on family, rely on your partner, because that's the person that you see every day or whatever. But like resist that urge. Like Friends are really, really, really important. Friends will push you in ways also that your partner might not always want to. Um, it's fantastic. I gotta say, as much as like I talk about like missing touch, I feel like I am more supported by my friends nowadays than I have ever been in the rest of my life, and I think that's because I've sort of grown a very large group of a
Mm-hmm.
huge community of people, and I feel that like adding more people to that group is actually great and healthy and lovely. And
Mm-hmm.
hey, some new fresh blood, fresh
Yeah.
blood, tasty, tasty. So yeah.
Yeah. Like when I hear polyamorous people talking, I think to myself, that sounds great, except I don't want to have sex with all these people.
The logistics. I think it's like I think for me, I have so many hobbies, and I guess that like you could expand your like friend group to be both of those things for you, and like kudos. I think that like if my books say anything, it's that like sometimes mixing like sex and friends can kind of be a little bit tricky. A lot of sort of feelings get involved, I think, in
Mm-hmm.
ways that are a little bit different. Like it goes back to like the release of those neurochemicals, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that like you have to find yourself a community. You can find that community in polyamory if that's how it works for you. Kudos. You can find that community in friendship if that's the way that it works for you. You can find it in a group of activists who work together to achieve goals, or like an artist collective, you know. But I think that that community is so incredibly important. And find it the way that you will. But you got to go looking for it. You really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Um, it's interesting that this whole path has started from like, what are you doing about the press that published
Uh-huh.
you shutting down?
Mm.
But I think it's important to kind of remember all that. I picked up a zine a while back called Against Community Toward Friendship. And it was pretty short.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it basically was saying like you need to find specific people to care about and not join a amorphous community.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it was fairly short. It talked like kind of more in detail about the distinction between friendship and community and why one more
Mm-hmm.
than the other. But I think about, you know, genre writers in
Mm-hmm.
particular. I'm on record for years, for the entire duration of this show, more than 100 episodes, calling myself a community skeptic, even before picking up that zine.
Yeah.
For different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Now that my mental health is better, I have much more like good reasons why I think community is bad than I did when I started.
Yeah.
But like, to the idea of like going on Blue Sky and being like, I'm a member of the horror writer community, and being like, okay, cool. Like, who are your friends who are horror writers? Have you met them? You know,
Yeah.
we got VoidCon coming up this year. I'm gonna actually go. I'm gonna meet people in the flesh.
Hey!
I'm gonna hug people. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
you know, I'm gonna touch them.
You get that touch. You
consensually.
Get it. You get it. Yes,
Um,
please ask.
and
Yeah.
and like, you know, I'm gonna say I am part of this group. It's gonna be tough because social anxiety, but it's, you know, I'm gonna say I am now part of this group. These are people who like me and I like them, and we all made an effort to be in the same place together to talk about the thing that we like together. Good. And so one of the things you said in passing about one of the other presses you were with, and you said, I don't know if you remember that thing, and I don't. I gotta tell you,
God.
like,
Oh, that sounds so good. Oh my God.
I logged on to Blue Sky today and I saw people vague posting about Andy Weir, and I said, I don't care, and I turned it off.
Care.
Did he say something completely reprehensible? It kind of doesn't seem like it. Sick. Cool. Project Hail Mary is a fun movie. Go see it. Like,
Oh, ultimate dad movie. So yeah, on brand for you.
yup. Yeah, brought me to
Yeah.
tears in the IMAX.
Yeah. No, hey,
Or the
I
same,
want to go see it with my dad. So
like
yeah.
like J.K. Rowling, may her name be scrubbed from history.
Jeez.
Like I
Yeah.
guess there was a Harry Potter trailer that came out, and I would have never
Apparently.
known
I
had you
I
people
know.
not started talking about her again. You know,
Yeah.
I don't follow a
Yeah.
ton of people on social media, and the only times I ever hear about any sort of drama or discourse is when I see people responding to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, dog, it is scientifically proven that deplatforming works. There are papers. Go read the academic papers that show that if you silo these weird weirdos into their own forum with only them, the daily usage goes way down.
Yeah.
Ban them.
Yeah.
Ignore them. Block them. Stop telling me about it. No more
Don't
video essays about the rising megastars you need to start worrying about. No, I would never know who those people are if you didn't tell me.
Yep. Oh man, it's like again, I'm a very big fan of I hold two things in my hands at the same time kind of thing. But it's like, as much as I really like Twitter when it existed was interesting because it was kind of a very quick way to sort of see, like, here's the top, like I could see like, oh, such and such a friend got a book deal and such and such a friend got this going on. And like, oh, look at these cute pictures. Like, oh, somebody did something fun today. That's great. But like, and it was kind of sad when it went. But at the same token, I'm also like, this has forced me to make the concerted effort to reach out to friends and have one-on-one discussions with them. And I feel that so many of my friendships have significantly deepened from no longer having that easy access and having to put in the effort and do it myself. And I think maybe that also kind of goes, I love, at first I was like, interesting statement about community and friendship. But I think I really see what you mean of like, it's the group of people who I count on as friends who helped me through that situation. It's the group of people who I support and who support me back. And it's not sort of an amorphous community. Because I don't know, like, I wish that we could find a way to sort of like come together like that. But I think that it's hard to do in places like Twitter, where we lose contact with people's community, like humanity. I'm saying Twitter, but like Blue Sky, Instagram, what have you. We've kind of forget that these are people. We forget that people are allowed to, like, we all learn so much. I think about myself as somebody who, like, if I don't kind of feel like oof about something I said, 8-9 months ago, that mustn't mean that I've grown that much,
Yeah.
And
Yup.
and I think that that's kind of a difficult part of life right now, is that it's hard to, I remember, like, I had a really hard time when I didn't want to, I've been writing since forever. Like I remember writing little stories as like some of the first things that I ever wrote. These like comedic little vignettes about me being a superhero causing pranks, like doing pranks. Was like a young, like first, second grader kind of thing. And I wrote novels when I was in high school and university and all of that. And I wanted to like hold it within myself. And I didn't want to release any of it out because I've always been very conscious of the fact that, like, once it's out of my hands and once it's sort of static and written down somewhere, what if I disagree with what I said a couple of years ago? And I mean, there's even things that now I'm like, well, I think I would probably position that differently, but I have to live with the fact that this is a time capsule of where I was at that time. This is how I felt then. Maybe I've grown, I've lived different things now, but it can be really hard sometimes to accept that, like, I have fixed this in space. I love the idea that we used to have of of oral storytelling, because you could modify your story depending on, okay, I'm seeing that Joe's really interested when I talk about body horror. I'm going to add a little bit of extra sprinkling of body horror in there. Get down that path. Adapting to how you feel that day, the social situation. You might change the references that you have in something to sort of talk about the cultural zeitgeist, and now you're sort of rigidly stuck in something. A part of me hates that. I think that that's just my general, like, hates to be in boxesness, hates to be rigid, hates to have a clear sort of like structure, self there. But yeah, again, I've gone down where was I even going with this? We're just down a path.
That's the beauty of writing the rapids. We don't know where we're going, and when we get there, we don't know where we are.
Yeah.
I would like to clarify, because it occurred to me, just as I was talking and as you were responding, that what I'm not advocating for is for people to not make friends on the internet. The internet is a very important place to make friends.
100%.
Especially if you're trans, especially if you're, disabled or particularly neurodivergent in a way that not a lot of people are. The internet is very important. Right?
Yep.
I live in a place. I went to go get coffee the other day. There were a bunch of dudes who looked like me playing Warhammer at the coffee shop. I could have made 5 more friends that day if I wanted to. So like I get it from my perspective, like where I'm at. Like, it's super easy for dad to be like, yeah, you just go, you'll make friends, whatever. Because especially 10 years ago, I was not making friends in public. I was not making friends I was not going to the coffee shop, for one, and I was not, going to even ever consider talking to anybody there. So, like, I get it. I'm 33. I'm doing better than I was doing when I was 23. I'm not trans.
There's so much less third spaces too, right? Like, it's harder to make friends or to come into contact with people more regularly. Like, you run into, you're with your coworkers 37 and a half hours or 40 hours or however many hours, and you have, like, there was a space that I used to go right at close to my place, but now that you could just go in for free. But now they've barricaded a whole bunch of the places. You can't go there anymore. And you're like, why? Why can I not come here and sit here? And why can I not just gather with my friends? Why can I not, like, I agree with you. I have made, like, some of the best and most meaningful friendships in my life through the internet. People who I legitimately, my sense of self, like who I am, my own understanding of myself, I just, those people are so pivotal to, like, who I am now. It almost freaks me out to think of the fact that I didn't know them before, and I only know about them because of the internet. It's like, as much as I'm like, hey, good riddance Twitter, I'm also like, you gave me some of the most important things in my life.
Yes.
I am where I am now, and I am happy, and as happy as I can be. I am as mentally adjusted as I am today as I can be because of that.
Same.
And it's the same thing of, like, you can hold both of those things in your hands at the same time, right? You can be like, this is a really important, like, the internet can be a really important place to make friends. The internet can be a really important place to find, like, especially if you're in a small community or you're trans or you're into stuff that might not be something that you can find as readily within your, like, sure, you can walk into a bookshop that has, or whatever else that has Warhammer going on, but it's, like, a lot harder to be like, yo, where are my, like, body horror, trans, like, my erotic horror, I live in a more sort of, like, centrist space, centrist town, and it would be genuinely difficult for me. Now I'm starting to find more and more it's becoming easier, but man, at the beginning, I think it can be a really useful way to start a lot of those friendships, because even then, like, some friendships have started online and become in-person friendships. That happens too when it can. That's magical. Or when you get to, like, meet your, like, physical friends in like an actual body, and you're like, oh my god, you have flesh, like what, that's crazy. So yeah, no, I agree. I think I just wanted to sort of tack onto that, exactly, that like it can be a really important place. It can be also like a place where you learn more about yourself, where you hear about terms that you thought were just you thought you were the only person
Mm-hmm.
who'd ever struggled through this before. That is so very true, and very much reflects my own life too. The internet is both like the most amazing place on earth, as well as can be some of the most toxic things ever. And it's both of those things. And it's up to you to do your best to stay on the part of the internet that makes you happy, and to notice when you are being veered off of that, which is really freaking hard, though.
Mm-hmm.
I will
Mm-hmm.
say,
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason why candy sells so well, right? It's not good for us, but man, oh, is it ever delicious, you know?
Yes. I love a good yes and. I love a good yes and.
Okay,
So, yeah,
good.
internet for friends. Don't say you're part of the horror writers community, because it doesn't mean anything and it'll get you into trouble. That's all I was saying. I want to in our DMs leading up to this, I said I wanted to talk about erotic writing versus smut, not necessarily in an adversarial way, but in a Venn diagram sort of way. So my wife was invited to a book club by her cousin. That was like her cousin and a bunch of her cousin's friends, and they were reading. They read like Hooked and some like weird billionaire dark romance spicy books. And that's not what my wife wants to read, but she wanted to try to make some friends, so she was doing that for a while until that fell apart. And good for her. And she got to read a lot of those smut books that people were talking about on Instagram and TikTok and whatever. And trying to like guide myself through like the context that I had.
Yeah.
I knew,
where are you going with this, Joe?
I knew that erotica was a thing in book form, because there used to be an erotica section at a local bookstore, and the R.A. Salvatore fantasy books that weren't in the fantasy shelf, that were like stored up above, were in that aisle. So like one particular time, just because like that's where like the storage was, like up where you need to get on a ladder.
Oh, okay.
And so
the storage
like
is where the erotica is.
the specific time I wanted that specific book, I was kind of wandering around in that little erotica alcove waiting for an employee to come help me get the fantasy book I wanted. And like I already said, I was raised Catholic. It was like the hardest thing in the world to like ignore the books that were there, because I was like, I feel like if I look at the spine of a book or the cover of a book, not even take it off the shelf or flip through it, that's going to be the moment my mom comes and from wherever she was in the bookstore and comes and finds me.
Oh man, gotta love that like police that lives inside of your head. Catholic. Right.
I used to hate walking through like the women's clothing section at the supermarket, because I'm gonna like look too hard at a bra and someone's gonna point and be like, pervert.
It's all in your head. It's all in your head.
I
know, but you can't help it. I know. It's really in there, right? Yeah.
It's in there so hard. Anyway. So I was aware of erotica. Essentially said to myself, well, that's porn. At any point in time where I might be interested in buying a porn book, I can think of a million reasons why I wouldn't. Living with my parents, what would my wife think about me buying porn books? Whatever. West Michigan, baby. And essentially just kind of forgot about it. Get into the books I'm actually into. Lots of them have sex in it. Lots of them have weird sex or violent sex. I'm reading Crash by Ballard. I'm reading The Sluts by Cooper. I'm reading anything from Inside the Castle. I'm reading Sam Richard. People are fucking, whatever. Some of it turns me on, some of it doesn't. But none of it's like, labeled as, billed as erotica. Right? Which like in my brain again, is like, well, that's supposed to, there's a utilitarian function to these books.
I love that. There's a utilitarian function to these books is so good. Okay, yeah, keep going. Sorry. I was just like, ooh, yeah,
in the
I
past,
like that.
I don't know, 2 years, people are talking about Morning Glory Milking Farm in public, and and Joe Dad says, "What is going on here? What is going on?" And then the old man inside of me is grumpy that people are calling sex scenes spicy scenes, that people are calling it smut and not erotica or just porn. I keep saying to people, if I, you say you're a big reader and you're only reading smut. If I said I was a movie head, but a film buff, but the only films I ever watched I had to go through a beaded curtain to purchase, people would laugh at me, and people said, "No, that's different." All of that is to say, you have written a book.
Yeah.
That is an erotic horror book.
Yeah.
And you made the choice to call it erotica and not smut. You clearly know more about this than I do. Can you please explain this to me?
I don't know that listen, I think that I love that you engage so deeply with this idea of like, what is erotica? What is smut? What does this mean to me? I think that those are like really interesting questions. Actually, that's a really interesting exploration of like how you feel about this. And I don't want to like psychoanalyze you because I'm just like, tell me more. I think that again, this is just me. Everybody's different. I think that so much of my understanding of relationships and how discussing a relationship, discussing the power dynamics, getting down into the raw sort of meat of it, of like, what does your body feel? How does your body react to this? I think that's like a very pure way. The pure is kind of a funny statement to make. But I think that's a very sort of deep way of exploring those relationships between people for me in an erotic sense. Again, there's a lot more to relationships. Relationships can have a lot of eroticism to them, can have none. All of those things are fully, they're different relationships to explore. I definitely do want to one day write a book that's all about sort of more of a platonic relationships and the ins and outs of that will have like no eroticism in it. But I think that it's a really key way of talking really honestly about the feelings inside of a person's body when they are with somebody that they have a crush on, or when they are, and the power that might exist between them in a societal sense versus in the bedroom sense, and how you can kind of talk about how those two things might work together and work against from each other. I think that a big part of what I'm often, I care so deeply about relationships. I care so deeply about how people connect with each other. And I think that one of the key ways that some people can connect with each other is through erotics. It is through, how one body relates to the other. And I think it is a key way of looking at something, and I think horror does this really well, of looking at something that society doesn't necessarily want you to look at. Society wants to tell you that these things are shameful, and that we need to sort of hide these things. I think that that's also why I love erotic writing by trans writers, because I think that they kind of get to that like bodiliness of it in a way that I find really satisfying. And sort of that understanding. I think that like the enmeshing of body horror and eroticism is just absolutely fascinating, because there's a wetness to bodies, there is sounds, and there is smells, and there is all of these things that is like an intrinsic part of, like, for me, eroticism and how I understand it. There's also the sort of discomfort with your own body that's meshed with you're walking that sort of tight line sometimes between like pleasure and pain, but also like discomfort, and like that reminder, especially like once you sort of end and you're kind of like, oh my God, that was kind of weird. Actually, the sounds that we were making were kind of strange. That was, if I take a look at this from an objective lens, that was a little weird, actually. But I had fun while doing it, you know? So I think that for me, this is why I kind of keep going back to eroticism, is because for me, it's about exploring that relationship. I don't have a problem with the word smut. I don't have a problem with porn. I don't have a problem with reading books that are just mostly like plot what plot, you know? Like I think that sometimes, and like I've had days where like I'm having a really bad day. I wake up, I feel sick, my head hurts, I'm exhausted, and I'm like, okay, what kind of smut book can I read this morning? And then I feel right as rain after. I'm like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Um, it's it's like for me, it's like sleep and eroticism are often like the two things that seem to heal me.
Mhm.
You know, and so I think that like for me, that's why like, you know, I had to put a label on enamored. I think it was legitimately difficult, if I'm being frank, to find a label. Even when I submitted my book to my publishers, they were like, huh, we don't really know. I guess this is going into like, you know, we do erotic horror, so it'll go into the erotic horror. Like, sure, why not? But at the same time, they were all like, is it like it's erotic? It's definitely. I think you can probably attest to this. There's some sex in this book. I think that that is undeniable. I don't think I've ever written something with so much sex in it. But also, like, in a way, I was writing the book that I wanted to write. And then you kind of have to, in the business of writing, slap a label on it. Like for me, it's like it's a character study about the impacts of capitalism on relationships.
Mhm.
Like that is to me what Enamored is, told through the veneer of cosmetics, you know, and of that kind of a business. But I think that like for me, that's why it's like those power dynamics are a part of sex. Relationships are a part of sex. How you express your own feelings towards somebody can be that way as well. And I think that that's why sort of that's the label that we went with. And for me, you know, I don't mind erotic. I don't mind like I haven't been as like you know loud about it, but I used to sort of say like, oh yeah, like I am the fine purveyor of moist literature. You
Mhm.
know, like I don't know. I think like let's have some fun with it.
Mhm.
Let's not be so buttoned up. Like I think that that's the whole point of erotica is to like to not be all buttoned up about it. Like let's not make
Heyo.
excuses. Let's have fun.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, ayo. You know, let's have some fun with it. Let's look into these spaces. Let's be honest about how these feelings can feel. You know, and I think that like Josephine is constantly talking about control,
Mhm.
and that is just one of the many ways that she is trying to establish some sort of control in her life to varying degrees of success. You know, so yeah, I think that that's for me. That's kind of how I feel about it. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not very good at giving definitions of things of like smut versus erotica. You know, I think that like smut is fun. Smut is fine. I love it for people. Yeah, the Morning Glory Milking Farm. I gotta read that. Oh my God. I've like heard people read snippets of it, and I was like, this sounds incredible. It's also like way more of a commentary. Like as much as like people keep commenting on like the very explicit nature of it, it also is like a very big commentary on the gig economy and
Mhm.
on capitalism in general. Like I think that sometimes you get a little bit more of a discussion than you think so out of these things. And they're also even the like things like dark romance are like a safe space to explore those kinds of feelings. Like nobody is getting hurt when you're reading these books. You know, and I think that that like there is this desire oftentimes to sort of label something as like, oh, well, this is bad behavior, this is good behavior, you know, like, oh, we shouldn't be um, putting forward such bad behavior. Like, think of the children. I say this to a father. I'm sorry. You know, I think that like, I think that kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. I think that society needs to trust its own self and ability to say what is right and what is wrong. If we keep spoon feeding people what's good and what's bad, I think that we kind of end up being where we are today, also with this strong belief that like people are either good or bad. And I just don't ascribe to that at all.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I like that. I for whatever reason, and maybe it's just like the dregs of internalized misogyny or whatever. I tend to have a negative knee-jerk reaction to people talking about smut or whatever.
Really?
And like, I also understand that that's not fair. I think people should read more books, even if they're books that don't interest me. I don't find billionaire men to be an attractive idea.
I know, me neither.
I don't find guns in orifices particularly erotic. Whatever. But knowing who those book club girls were, like in their day-to-day, their belief systems, their religions, their lives. Like you wanted to psychoanalyze me, I wanted to psychoanalyze them. Like, I get it. The whole fairy thing, ACOTAR and the like, totally understand the desire for big mysterious man takes put upon girl, brings her to a magical kingdom, and then gives her a bunch of power. Like, of course you would fantasize about that.
You know what I mean? Like, oh my God. Like, yeah, I also want to escape. Like, oh, geez.
No, me too.
Get me out of here? Give me power. Sure. Yeah, sounds good. Like, oh, an adventure? Like, you mean I'm not just going to my 9 to 5? I'm not just like endlessly cleaning my apartment? The turning around and being like, I thought I just threw out all of my recyclables. Why do I have more recyclables to throw out? Right. What happened? You're like, how did they multiply without me paying? Like, I think that, like, especially with so much of society, I think you're like bang on saying, like, like a lot of these folks might be like, they have a really hard time expressing themselves and asking for their desires and exploring that part of themselves. And this is kind of a way for them to do it. This is a way for them to maybe say, like, you know what? I really love how confident this person was. I am going to actually ask for some of this stuff. Or maybe, hey, I can introduce, what, this kind of titillates me. So I'm going to show my partner this so they can also get an opportunity to see what kind of turns me on. We can maybe like pretend, let's put on some, let's put on some gear. Like, let's role play a little bit. Like, heck yeah. I think that there's so many things that aren't for me out there, but I'm so glad that they're for somebody else. I'm like, man, I can't think of a thing recently. I've been really lucky. I've like, I remember but like, let's say like during the Magic Mike era, I was like, I'm so happy that this is just pleasing so many people. Like, good for you. Not for me, but like, man, am I ever glad that you are getting to experience this. You are having so much fun and you are getting catered to in a way that you've never been catered to before.
Yes.
And like, good for you, but I do understand that knee-jerk reaction. I think that like, I've been, I was also raised Catholic, right? I also had a lot of guilt and shame around my own sexuality. It took me a long time to come out, like a really long time. I couldn't even stare at that part of myself in the face. Like, it was horrifying. And now I think that I have some of that, a little bit more freedom, and I'm able to like look at that part of myself and be so proud of who I am. Like, I know we like poo-poo pride, like the word pride, but like, man, oh man, do I ever feel it? I want others to have that too. And I want others to be able to experience the kind of sex and sexuality that they want in their lives and the eroticism that they want in their lives, and to not just feel constrained by what society has told them is the acceptable way to do that. So kudos, have your fun, enjoy your stuff. I'm glad it exists for you. I wish that there was more stuff that existed for me, but sadly I have to go out and make a lot of that stuff myself. Although I will say there has been some really fun, I don't know, I'm seeing more and more freaky deaky stuff. And I'm hopeful that we see more and more of that coming out as time goes on. I will be reading to you today from my novella Enamored, a triptych. We're gonna just start right off the beginning. Let's dive right in. The taxidermied alligator on the ceiling swings from its chain in holy ecstasy as a client enters my apothecary. My usually proud displays wilt, jealous of this client's nearly translucent pale skin, doll-like features, and lustrous chestnut hair. Her essence is the thing cosmetics companies promise their clients, but always fail to deliver. If someone could distill her, they'd make a fortune. I assess her, guessing the reason for her visit. She looks to be of debutante age, and thus won't need rouge to bring back the blush of youth like my usual clientele. And judging by her stylish dress, she can afford a doctor, ruling out most cures. My bet? She's seeking a sleeping aid. Doctors give their patient the first taste of morphine, but never satiate the hunger they create. I offer her a capable but deferential smile. Servants shouldn't advertise they're better informed than their master. Good morning. Welcome to Watson & Sons. I'm Miss Josephine Watson. May I help you find what you're looking for, Miss Eva Metcalf? My heart thrills at the name. She's a regular in Ottawa society papers, with a family influential enough to have a street named after them. Eva's the type of patron I need to pay off the creditors who've turned threatening after the police investigation. Or to pay for passage out of this town of politicians and wood pulp. How may I be of service? I ask. I'm looking for rouge. I was wrong. After 10 years in this business, that seldom happens. Interesting. Her eyes wander over the displays, lingering on an illustration of a ghostly pale girl with blue veins on her neck, like fractures in a teacup, ready to shatter. Eva traces the girl's neck with a delicate finger. It's been so long since someone's done the same to me that the sleeping animal inside of me stirs. I pull the blankets over its cage. What's this? She asks. Enameling. It's very popular in the salons of Paris. The allure of Paris piques her interest, as it does to any woman of stylish taste. Her beautiful emerald eyes turn to me as I continue my sales pitch. It will cover any imperfections such as freckles or blemishes while hardening your skin against future damage. I can offer a sample free of charge. In truth, it's marketed to older women, promising to fill crevices gouged by age and conceal discoloration from the sun. Perhaps they've missed an opportunity to appeal to a younger market, who are just as conscious of their flaws. Will it hurt? She asks, eyeing the pots I place on the countertop. She ungloves slowly, popping each white silk finger in turn. Heat settles below my stomach. You're in safe hands, I say. In truth, paints and tinctures ruin even perfect skin, requiring ever thicker applications to hide the damage they cause. It's a great business model, one that feeds on and amplifies anxieties. A perpetual money machine. I dip my index into the white cream and reach towards her. She snatches her hand away. Can you use a brush? The finish won't be as smooth. A lie, but I want to touch her skin before hiding it under the treatment. She says nothing, just stares, waits. She's right, and I know better than to mix business with pleasure. I rummage in my drawers to find a clean implement and present it to her. She places her hand daintily on the counter. My reward. I dip the bristles in the cream and brush them over her skin, erasing an unsightly freckle from a careless youth spent frolicking in the sun. Her fingertips I leave nude, allowing the skin to breathe. Several months ago, a duchess had coated every inch of her face, bust, and arms in enameling, and she'd fainted dead away in the middle of a party and had to be smashed open like a hard-boiled egg. I won't repeat the same mistake. A dead customer can't return for further treatments. Ava's heart races as I paint over her pulse point, but she doesn't move an inch. You're doing beautifully, I praise. Her skin pinkens. Rich ladies are all the same, so softened by sweet words. The surface loses its sheen as it hardens into a porcelain-like finish. In light blue ink, I trace veins where warm blood courses. Eva brings the immobile hand up to her face, marveling at my work, at her now pristine skin, at the blue veins crossing her hand like rivers in the countryside. Is it permanent? No, it will break if you move or tap it forcefully. but cracks can be filled by further treatments. She runs her hand along the exposed skin of her neck. My eyes follow its route before I can correct their course. You can do this to more than my hand? Oh, of course! Face, bust, and hands are typical. Beauticians cover only the exposed areas. Any more can be dangerous. The full procedure is, I would like one done as soon as possible. A giggle nearly bursts from my throat, but I hold it back. I don't want to give the impression that I'm too eager or my calendar too free. Desperation is never attractive. Another face superimposes herself onto hers. Red hair, a sweet nose, and a tongue sharper than a scalpel. Leech, it hisses. I blink the vision away. Next Tuesday? Perfect. A full procedure is $20. It's a gamble, asking for a worker's yearly salary for a measly treatment. But it'll clear my debts in one sweep. And she can clearly afford it, with that gown and flashy brooch. The door swings open and a maid charges in. She's a prime candidate for my Blanche complexion cream and could do with some tooth powder and a more mature perfume. But she's not in my apothecary to shop. Miss Eva, I thought you'd been taken. I'll be there at 12 sharp, she whispers before turning to her maid, tucking her hand behind her back. We're going to be late for supper with George, the servant whines. Your mother is sick enough without also having to worry about you. Oh, my poor, ailing mother. The maid doesn't react to her mocking tone. Maybe she'd benefit from a mustard poultice to clear out her ears. Ava follows her out, not sparing me another glance. I don't take it to heart. She'll be back. It seems my luck is turning. My late husband had vehemently opposed my suggestion to bolster our cosmetics offering, claiming it would cheapen us. We heal, not feed into vanities. It was too close to his former family business for him to see any sense. He'd sworn he'd forge his own path, heal the sick, rejuvenate the old, stop illness in its tracks. Said that was his calling. In the end, he spent the money we earned selling my Blanche complexion cream to develop his own tinctures. But in the end, his cure-alls cured nothing. Shame I hadn't waited a little bit longer so he could witness me making more in a single sitting than he'd ever made with his own wares.